Hi everyone, I'm Zen, your astrologer, and welcome to your midweek astrology update. In the present moment, we're still pretty much heavily under the influence of Sunday's super full moon in Libra, where the moon formed a grand trine with Saturn and Mars, but at the same time, the sun illuminated the moon from Aries, being conjunct also with Venus and Chiron. So that is our wounds, that is our wounding. So one way or another, whatever we're trying to do in this present moment, especially instinctually, especially where we have to make decisions or find greater clarity in so many different matters, still the base impulse is from our wounds, where we just try to regenerate ourselves, try to treat ourselves with respect, fairness, kindness, equality, and at the same time, all of these principles, so to speak, are very, very important to exist in all of our relationship or any kind of contractual or even non-legally binding promises or interactions that we have with basically anyone. So in the big picture is that right now, as I said, instinctually, so from deep within our primordial selves, we are being guided to have fairness, equality, balance in our lives. So on one hand, that also means that we have to live by example. We are much more inclined at this time to, show, project, offer, and give to others how we would like to be treated as well, which is a really, really good thing. But at the same time, Aries is the warrior, it is pretty assertive energy. So if we're treated with unfairness, with inequality, if we are discriminated, or if we are challenged, we are definitely going to stand up for ourselves and challenge everyone who challenges us. And I do believe that it is this part that we are seeing playing out on the world stage with the protest. The full moon awakened our emotions, and in the sign of Libra, it is all about fairness and equality, while Aries is the individual, so it is the self. And this full moon just activated our warrior spirit, which means that if unfairness and inequality and, these kind of problems are playing out on the world stage, when it is centralized power who is the aggressor, so to speak, or the source of that unfairness, well, this is the time when people will definitely take action, go out and protest, go out and do everything in their power for their voices to be heard, for their wills, for their sovereign wills basically to be taken into consideration. And because of this very strong and influential Saturn, well, chances are that this time people will try their very, very best to do this in the most logical, rational, down-to-earth manner where it kind of does serve the greater good, which means that they will try their very, very best not to be violent, not to be driven by instinct, by survival mentality. So rather than to just create violence and aggression, people are just demonstrating much more peacefully, but at the same time, this is where they will try to take matters to courts of justice, to certain institutions or representatives, like for example an ombudsman, to fight for justice the proper way basically. Unfortunately, this might not be the case for each individual, because Mars is still conjunct the North Node, which means fighting for our futures, and automatically it's opposite the South Node in Sagittarius, which can be like fanaticism, which can be truly carried away by principles, by faith, by what they believe in. So a few individuals will definitely manifest in a very aggressive, in a very extreme way. So unfortunately, this is also part of the picture. But the danger comes from few isolated, misguided individuals rather than from the collective. And this already is a really, really good sign, because when the collective and the masses, when the vast majority are trying to, do things the right way, a balanced way, Saturn in Aquarius, serving truly the greater good of everyone, well, that is already divinely inspired action. And chances are that these demonstrations, manifestations, protests, people fighting to have their voices heard and taken into consideration is definitely going to produce changes or some kind of effects, especially legally speaking. And also what makes this energy that much more gentle is exactly the Venus and Sun and Chiron conjunction in Aries. Normally, Aries is pretty selfish in the sense that it's really driven by instincts, and survival instinct is one of the strongest motivational, animating forces inside of all of us, regardless of who it is that we are. We are basically still part of nature, and in nature, survival is the strongest power, without a shadow of a doubt. But because of that Chiron, it sensitizes us, it reminds us of our wounds, it reminds us of everything that we have suffered, all the times also when we wounded ourselves, because Aries is the self, and Chiron in Aries sometimes translates into the wounds that we are responsible for. For example, allowing people to do what they want in our lives, saying yes when we should have said no, not standing up for ourselves, wrong choices, certain uninspired actions and risks that we might have taken, which led to the wounding. So this is also part of the Aries symbolism. And as I said, this sensitizes people. This makes them that much more responsible of what they project onto others. And because of our wounds, some people can get enraged like a wounded animal. But because Venus is also here, even though she is not very strong in Aries, it is still sufficient to make us at least just a little bit empathic, just a little bit that much more considerate of other people, because others are basically also us. Saturn in Aquarius, the power of the people. We are strong united. We are strong when the other, Mars in the sign of Gemini, the North Node in the sign of Gemini, is considered as equal, as important, as whatever you want as the self. So basically we're putting others on the same pedestal that we're putting ourselves, and this makes us empathic not just emotionally or spiritually, but also mentally, when the well-being of the other counts as well. And this is the reason why predominantly this is where we're not acting as a wounded animal, even more savage because of the wound, because of the pain, but rather quite the opposite. We act as healers because we know exactly how painful the wound can feel. And also it is our desire to heal, to regenerate, to be whole again, which drives us more than the pain itself. And that is why this Libra full moon has such a harmonious side to it. Yes, it is rebellion and protest and fighting for justice, but when we're fighting as a healer, when we're fighting with empathy, with consideration, that changes the frequency, that changes the vibe, that changes basically everything. And there is also another important celestial conversation in the sky. Mercury is still conjunct Neptune, Mercury planet of the mind, so our way of thinking, our rationality, logic, communication, everything that we perceive mentally. And as I said in previous videos, Mercury in Pisces is like investigator energy. where we truly try to make sense of things as best as we can, sometimes with rationality, other times with intuition, with emotional intelligence, other times Neptune with faith, or simply not allowing illusions and contradictory informations which might affect us, again Neptune, to basically stray us from our path, stray us from our goals, from our principles, from our own inner structures. And this Neptune conjunct Mercury is sextiling Pluto, and Pluto in Capricorn, well, on one hand, it is our power. It is power over the self, power over our physical lives, power over even our physical being. And one of the ways how we manifest this power is through the choices and actions that we take. So basically, this Pluto sextiling Neptune with Mercury along, it is a very strong psychological empowerment when you can simply allow your own truth, your desire to have truth in your life, a truth which is basically based on total honesty with yourself, what you're feeling, what are your guiding principles in life, Neptune conjunct Mercury, all the lessons and profound life experiences of the past, again Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune. And all of these things give us power, give us strength, and ultimately, when we figure out the way the divine powers work in our lives, in this reality, above but also below, well, that is already a position of power when we have influence over so very many things. Because if we know the divine pattern and how it plays out, we know how to adapt our own decisions, choices, actions, and everything that happens inside of us and also outside of us in order to be in harmony with it, and that is power. And in this present moment, for us to embody our powers is so very important, and also to be totally honest with ourselves, because as I said in previous videos, this is the first Aries season after the Great Conjunction which took place last December. So this is where we kind of lock in the main frequency that we need to experience in the next 20 years. And at this time, what we feel, what we truly desire, what we think, what we want for the future is more important than absolutely anything. More important than having, a fixed plan, A, B, C, this is what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna follow these steps, etc. If you have one of those, it's absolutely fine and it's wonderful. But what is truly essential is for us to be truly aligned to our desire and what we will for ourselves as sovereign beings for the future. Because this is the way we are truly planting those seeds of intentions in the universe. And of course, this isn't as easy as I make it out to be, because we are still dominated and are going to be up until the very end of 2021 by this Saturn and Uranus square, an energy that is going to be staying with us all throughout the year. And basically, this is the main theme of 2021, out with the old. Let's destroy the old structures, everything that was corrupted, everything that doesn't serve us, regardless of how good, beautiful, helpful it was in the past. That's the past. We need to head to the future, and that's Uranus. So this is how we are slowly deconstructing the old normality, the old way of doing things, both collectively and individually, by overcoming challenges, by figuring out who we are, what we want to do with our lives, what kind of future we want to experience, everything which has to do with Uranus basically. But because this is a square, it is not happening, very linearly, it isn't happening in a very delightful and peaceful manner, but rather it is like events, challenges, unexpected circumstances, being like omnipresent in our lives, always pushing us out from our comfort zone, determining us to reinvent ourselves, to embody our genius, our most extreme ideas, etc. And basically this is gonna be playing out all through 2021, both individually and collectively. So everything that I say, even the most harmonious aspects and energies are still gonna have to adapt themselves to this big karmic theme of 2021, out with the old and in with the new. And also, as I said in previous videos, this is where we're trying to exit the birth canal, and at this moment we're almost free, we're almost out, we're almost, symbolically speaking, of course, this is where we truly own our beings, our lives, everything about us. We are the supreme and sovereign rulers. But let's not forget that this new beginning and this new, even psychological rebirth, well, we're still a newborn, so we cannot fend for ourselves. That is exactly why that much action, as in physical action, the job that you need, the money that you need, the contract that you need, the healing, regeneration, physiotherapy, whatever it may be that you need in your life to truly experience that new beginning, new start, new self, new story, etc. Well, the physical elements are not aligned and are not there 100% yet. Because right now it is more important for us to want this, want the new, want to take care of ourselves, our beings and our lives with maximum determination, maximum passion, maximum devotion to our own futures. And as I said, it is not just our own, but also if we take other people, especially those who are very important in our lives, our connections, our closest friends, our family, those who are truly aligned with us, if we have them on the same pedestal as ourselves, that is truly fantastic and amazing, because we're not just doing this for ourselves, but we're also pulling, dragging, motivating, empowering others to come along with us, especially frequency-wise. And this is also the good thing about the Saturn and Uranus square, because both Saturn and Uranus rule Aquarius. Aquarius is, as I said, people. It is society. It is all the individual connections which make up the collective. So chances are that so many of us, especially those who share the same principle, goal, vision, life view, etc., desire the same kind of future, so to speak, are very, very connected with one another. Even if it's not directly, even if we don't actually know each other, because of this astrological configuration, there's almost like a telepathy, like a strong, intuitive, empathic sense which connects all of us. This is where we can see how our common goals and purposes enact themselves in the world. So this gives us a very special kind of union, community and strength. Even if we don't know each other physically, even if we don't actually know each other's identity, just to be connected to the collective is already enough to empower us in a very strong way. And even though, of course, there are multitude of groups, multitude of smaller collectives, as I said, they are sharing the same principles, the same worldviews, the same goals. That's how quantically we are connected. But the fact that there are more groups or collectives, more predominant energies, is not really a bad thing. Because, in the universe, everyone has different roles. So the multitude of groups have their own role, have their own unique, symbolically speaking, mission. And it is also absolutely true that some of these groups are not in a very harmonious relationship with each other, but that is also the square, the battle between Saturn and Uranus. So there has to be a tension in order for the middle path to be created. So even this conflict, the contradictions are not really an impediment. It is simply part of the big picture. So you see why embodying your own truth, your sovereign will and what you desire on a heart-based level, even through your instincts and gut, is so very important, because you make the collective that much stronger, you make yourself that much stronger, and this is how we, literally create a new paradigm, a future, a new reality together. So this is what we're experiencing and what we are doing, even if we don't know that this is what we're doing in a conscious manner in the present moment. But this energy is going to be shifting, becoming even more dynamic, becoming even more action-oriented very, very soon as we head into April. Because one of the biggest and most important celestial events that is going to be a predominant energy in April is this Aries new moon taking place either on the 11th or 12th of April. And why? Well, Aries is new beginning in itself. It is birth. It is the new. As I said, it is the first Aries season after the Great Conjunction. We had this full moon in the opposite sign of Aries, Libra, which gave us so much clarity, and it is still doing it. It is guiding us, leading us to embody our principles, desires, etc. But what follows is this new moon, and in astrology, new moons are definitely the symbol of new beginnings. And if that new moon takes place in Aries, the astrological house, the sign of this new beginning, well, imagine the power, the impulse. And being the very first Aries new moon after the Great Conjunction, well, this makes it so very, very important. So all of these seeds of intention that we are refining, we are strengthening, we are preparing to be planted right now. And as I said, it doesn't matter if we know that we're doing this or we're just doing it unconsciously, it's absolutely fine. Because that Aries new moon is going to be the moment when we are going to plant these into the universe. And Aries is a very quick energy. So chances are that in the course of the next 6 months, but for most of us much sooner than that, exactly because Aries is very quick, we are going to be starting to harvest those new beginnings that we have been working on personally. And at the same time, the ruler of Aries, Mars, is going to be out of bounds. And whenever Mars is out of bounds, it is extremely strong. It is, when I say that Mars is the activator, the energizer, the drive principle, when it's out of bounds, it's instant, it's quick, it's very forceful, also chaotic, so that means that the pressure is on. Mars becomes very free and chaotic, doing whatever it wants to do. That is always a period of surprises and, sudden, quick, unexpected opportunities, because it just gives us what we need, what we want, what we are focusing on. Yes, that also has a negative side, because when Mars is out of bounds, assertive energies are really assertive, violent, excessive, so to speak. So you can imagine that it will make everything that is going on the world stage a little bit more heated, more conflictual, more assertive. And this is perfectly true internationally, relationship between countries and people and cultures, etc. as well. But the good thing is that by this Aries new moon, we are going to be having the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Chiron, Eris, goddess of discord, and the moon in Aries as well, and that's a lot of astrological power. So that will be a period when we are not just, searching for our inner truth, for what we believe in. We're not just doing this psychological work, trying to obtain our goals and what we need, but that will be the moment when we actually have to take action and work with whatever we have in our lives to enable our new beginnings. So that will be a moment when we truly have to be doing the work, directly living it, experiencing it, being immersed into it. So that is basically the time of action. That is when we're already out of the birth canal and we are learning to walk, we are learning to do all those things that we need to survive, but in this new paradigm, in the great unknown. So we're also adapting, we're also learning, but we're also doing and executing and serving ourselves and our greatest principles. And this isn't like selfish, because this, we're just mirroring the universe. Think about it, Saturn in Aquarius, what does it tell us? Well, Saturn is how the universe seen as a living, breathing unity, a big organism, well, how it takes care of itself, its needs, its well-being, its harmony, stability, etc. Because when the universe is not in harmony, well, then no being, creation in it is not going to be in harmony. So the universe's primary duty is to serve its own harmony, its own well-being, because that is the only way it can ensure that every creation, being, whatever, is okay. And we also mirror that, especially right now, if we are okay with ourselves, if our lives are at least tolerable, supportable, they offer us what we need to just live and experience and do our own things. For some people with greater ease, with others, they have to invest much more time and energy regardless. But if we're doing what we need to do for ourselves, then we're also serving the universe, we're also serving the collective, we're also serving harmony. And that is exactly why we can blindly trust the universe and the divine intelligence with almost everything in our lives, even those things which are not under our control, because we know that the universe has to serve its own well-being, its own harmony. And if we know ourselves to be people, beings, souls who are trying to be in harmony with the greater good, then we're already aligned. Our purpose is aligned with that of the great divine. And that means automatically that we have every reason to trust. We have every reason to believe that the universe is going to be infinitely benevolent to us. And that every single thing that happens, every action, every divine guidance is going to serve our greatest good. And this is a very rational, logical Saturn in Aquarius expression of faith, and why it is okay to have faith in the ways of the divine, because it makes so much sense. All we need to do is just look at nature. Nature takes care of herself. Nature always nurtures and nourishes the system, the unity, the collective. Nature is the universe, but an imperfect version of the universe. So imagine what something even more perfect, something quantic, something infinitely intelligent is capable of. And all we need to do is align to its own benevolence that it has towards itself. Ultimately, we are part of it. We are living, breathing part of it. So that means that great benevolence, that infinite cosmic energy meant to nurture life, well, we are recipients automatically. All we need to do is give our faith and trust, and we're immediately connected. Of course, that will, guide us, align us to the work that we need to do to be even more in harmony, to be even stronger personally, to have even greater access to the universe's highest energies. But that is part of the spiritual journey, and that is the miracle of life and existence. And this is ultimately what the sky is trying to tell us so desperately, that we have every reason to trust the divine, but also the divine within us, because the two are united and the goal is the same, the greater good and harmony of all things in existence. And of course, harmony isn't passive. It isn't total stillness and just happiness and bye. It is also the challenges, because we need to evolve. Nature needs to evolve. Without challenges, without opposition, without conflict, without mistakes, without pain, without us seeing the results of bad actions, unwise choices, evolution cannot take place. Evolution cannot go forward. So everything in life has a role, and we need to respect that. That's why we shouldn't feel discouraged if there are so many challenges. We shouldn't feel discouraged when there is, a moment of disharmony and chaos within us, because that is when we realign, that is when we find our truth, that is when we can be honest with ourselves. So we have to embrace everything, accept it, and work with it, and turn it towards our power and strength. And if we're just trying this, if we're just simply trying our best to be in this, to stay on this path of service to the self, but not in a, let's say, symbolically speaking, Luciferian way, not to the ego, not to our interest, but service to the self in the sense that the self is a living, breathing, active part of the oneness of all things. So by serving the self, we serve the collective, the unity, the infinite divine as well in this sense. And if we try our very best, success one way or another is almost guaranteed, because especially in pivotal times like this, especially when the whole world is basically upside down, when there is no normality, when there is no certainty, when there is no clear visible future, it may be frightening for us living beings, but imagine what that means to the divine. This is a creative chaos where it can freely birth what it wants, what it needs, what is most ideal, because our sense of normality, our strong mental patterns, collectively speaking of course, but individually as well in our own lives, do not oppose the divine plan. So the universe has freedom to do things its own way, and that is always something absolutely wonderful. Just imagine, every world crisis, may that be pandemic, disease, volcanic eruption, big earthquake, wars, Holocaust, name something bad that the humanity has been through, it always led to something better, greater, something improved, more stability, a higher octave of whatever was taken away from us. So we know that this is leading to somewhere better, greater, the highest octave of a normality we want to experience, stability, and ultimately freedom. And this is all the reason for us to stay strong in our path and just trust ourselves, trust our instincts, and ultimately trust the divine intelligence. This concludes today's horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone for your support, for your comments, for your shares. If you'd like to support my work and my channel, you can find the link to my PayPal in the description below. Thank you so much for listening. I wish everyone a blessed and magical rest of the week. Until next time, bye for now.